deduplicate contacts in CiviCRM, there's a number of tools that you can use. Let's first have a look at Find and Merge Duplicate Contacts, which shows you a list of the different rules that you can use to help you. The page shows you a number of rules for the different contact types, organizations, individuals, and households. And for each of those contact types, there are rules that can be used to find duplicates. There's 3 default ones in CiviCRM: name and address, name and email, and just email. And when you use them, for instance, the name and address one, name and email one, what you'll get when we continue here, when we're looking throughout the entire database, what you get is a list of the contacts in there that on the basis of your criteria, name and email address, are likely to be the same ones. So this person here with the same email address is very likely to be the same contact, and therefore you can merge them. But in case they were not, note them as not being a duplicate so that next results won't give them again. I'll merge them in a minute, but let's first have a look at another rule as well. And this is one that I created just before this. And let's have a look at that rule. The rule looks for first name and last name being the same. And if they are, they get 10 points and 10 points. And we consider them a double when there's 20 points altogether. In other words, if both the first name and the last name are exactly the same. If we use that rule, we get a slightly different result from the first one that we looked at, because now we get not only email and first and last name are the same people, but also people whose first and last name are the same, and apparently there's more than one double for this Thomas Bird person. We can now merge those contacts, and if you do, and let's do so, you merge, you get a list with on the right hand side the oldest contact, on the left hand side the youngest contact, and then you can decide on which data from either you want to put into the remaining contact. And the only one that's really different here is the telephone number, so let's take this. Groups are also copied, and if they're in the same group, both of them, then nothing will change, but let's not try that out and just go there. And if we then merge and go to listing, we'll be taken back to the list that we came from. The new contact is created, sorry, not created, merged, and one of them has been deleted. And we now still have the second list ready for merging or not. And this is how you can deduplicate contacts in CiviCRM manually. The rules you just saw are rules used during the data import of the use case. We used the name and email and first name and email to define what should happen when contacts are being imported and are likely to be doubles. We did that in the form processor that we used to import, and let's briefly go there again. When we said import subscribers, we said when adding a contact, do that along the extended contact matcher type of action. And when we look at that, then we can see that the extended contact profile that we used was individual. And we need to go there in order to see what that profile of the extended contact matcher looks like and what that does, why that is relevant in the form processor here. So let's have a look at the extended contact matcher, which you can find through Administer Automation Extended Contact Matcher, which is where you'll find an individual profile. That's the one being used during the import of the data in this use case. And let's click on Edit. And then there's quite a long list of things that can be configured, some of which actually need configuration. Let's start at the top. We're using it for the individual. When multiple matches are found, pick the oldest one as the basis. And then there's a lot of fields that I won't all define, but the text in the fields is not to be looked at as case sensitive. The default location type is the home type that we defined. Primary phone type is mobile, and so on. What to do when data are available in the import but not in CiviCRM yet? Should it override or not? It says here danger, and it is danger because you may need to consider what happens when you overwrite data that are in your database already. But if the contact has no address and there is one in your import, then it's quite safe to say add the address in CiviCRM. Here you find the matching rules that we defined in the contacts find and merge duplicate contact screen. So the last and first name and any email, that's the first one it will look at. It's a double one if those are all three met, defined in the rules in the contact menu. The second rule, the first name and any email, is to be checked. If either of those two are met, then the import can consider the contact as a double. We could have more matching rules, but for this use case, these two are fine. Then here you define what to do if contacts are matched. In the use case, we said nothing, but you could say that if contacts are matched, they're added to a group, or they get an activity, or they get a tag. The created contacts, in other words, contacts that were not in the database yet, when being imported, those are added to the group data import of individuals. When there's duplicates, do nothing, but when there's a difference between a matched contact, so there's one in the import and the same one's already in the database, but the data of those matched contacts differ from each other, from what's in the database and from what's being imported, then this definition says create an activity type, which will be a task for a staff member to check what is different and what should happen with those different data. This profile defines what should be done with the data being imported, specifically with duplicates that are already in your database. Now let's look what the effect of that is. Let's therefore look at one of the contacts that was imported, this contact here. The contact has an address and an email address, has 2 contributions, and was added to 2 groups as a volunteer, gets a newsletter, and is a donor. But the activities tab here is the relevant one because there's a red one saying check the contact data, different data on import. The task is scheduled, as in no one has looked at it yet. So let's have a look at what the information is that we get from here by clicking on view. And here we can see that the new address that was imported is this one, but the old address was this one that was already in the database. Since CiviCRM cannot decide which of those 2 is the correct one, a human eye should do that. And what the person should do is check, because the new address is now here, is check which is the proper one. And once that is done, edit the contact and put it on completed, so that the task is finished, though the difference checking thing is still there. So this contact has been imported 3 times as a donor, as a volunteer, and as a reader of your newsletters, had different data on different imports, and therefore that is noted. And in this way, CiviCRM, together with the extended contact matcher profiles and with its find and merge duplicate contacts rules, helps you in different ways to match and dedupe the different contact sets that you have on import or during periodic checks that you should carry out anyway to make sure that you keep your contacts in your database as clean as possible.